Aloha everyone, and welcome to another interview with Philipp von Holtzendorff of Leela Quantum Tech. This is part two of our original interview we did a week ago. And, for those of you, the link will be in the description below for that part one. This is part two. We're going to pick up where we left off. And for those of you that are brand new, and this is the first video you've seen on Leela Quantum Tech, I do want to introduce Philipp. He is the owner and proprietor of Leela Labs, which is a C60 company producing C60 oil and C60 topical products. And then he's also now ventured off into this other adventure called Leela Quantum Tech. And so he's the owner proprietor of that. And so we've had an interview before talking about the general basis or the foundation of the energy and the products. And now we're going to pick up where we left off, which is talking about actual the actual testing that was done. We went over the certificates in the first interview, and now we're going to actually get into the actual how they did the testing, and all of this material will eventually be available on the website. I got an early copy. They're being translated from German to English, and it's quite amazing because I did a little bit of a deep dive last night into all of this material. There were 16 separate studies, and it is amazing. Not only does it validate the actual products in terms of like EMF protection, like it protects the body, but and even more so, it promotes wellness, and that's what these studies picked up. But we'll get into that in a second. So, welcome, Philipp. Good morning. It's really early here in Hawaii. How are you doing today?
Hey, good to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about the test results. And so this is where it gets really, really amazing. Now, for me, I'm just sort of a nerd, but if you click on the research and studies section, basically, as I understand it, right, you had 16 different studies ran on your two primary products, which was your T-shirt, which is a shielded fabric. So that's kind of like I was mentioning earlier, brute force shielding fabric, which got silver embedded in the fabric, silver threads. So that would be something that if you were to go to any regular EMF protective type of site, they would sell clothing materials, things like that. But then you've charged it with your quantum energy, and then you've had it tested. And so you had test runs on those. You had tests done on the heel capsule itself, the brass capsule, right? Is there anything else? I've only been able to get through about maybe half of it, but what's new on the website now is a write-up of the results from the shirt, write-up of the results from the heel capsule, and then of course this write-up here from a second. There's two different groups, right? There's one group called BESA, and this other group called IGEF. So
exactly.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to do a quick little thing here where I want to explain to everybody how they tested, because that's something that, if you've ever seen my other videos, I'm really into the whole studies and methods and materials sections of each study, whether that's where the rubber hits the road. It's like, okay, well, what did they study, and what machine, what devices did they use to study, and what did they study? So I want to just point out to the audience that each one of these studies, they basically took it was just people who did not know what was going on. They were just brought in and put on a shirt or wear this pendant, right? But they did have no idea what the product was, and they basically measured these people. They measured them three ways. The first way was that just walking in the door, sit down, let me measure you. The second one was, all right, let me subject you to whatever I'm going to test, like whether it's EMF or radiation or toxic substances. And there was also one that was where they disorders and pathogens. And so there's four different types of exposures that people were exposed to, but not in a dangerous way. And then so then they would expose them, and then they would give them the product, and then expose them again. And so that's correct, right, Philipp?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and then the two different devices. So BESA uses a different protocol than IGEF. Now BESA, and this was the thing that was interesting for me, and I got a little story you're going to love. BESA uses a bioenergetic base test. And what bioenergetic testing is it was invented by a Dr. Vole, who is a physicist. And what's really interesting, Philipp, when I was reading this last night, and I was really quite surprised that they were using the Vole, because I want to just kind of just share with people that are watching this that, what is bioenergetic testing? And I want to make sure that people understand that it is not woo-woo, hippie stuff. I mean, this is an actual two physicists, a Dr. Voll and a Dr. Warner, a German physicist, developed this new approach. And what it is, they created a computer-based instrument which measures the energy of the body using acupuncture meridian point readings. Okay, so if you understand anything about Chinese physiology, the methodology and their belief systems, they believe is that the whole body is basically an electrical system or of an energy system actually, and the energy runs along meridians within the body, and there's points along those meridians that are very crucial, and that's what the whole acupuncture thing is, and how Chinese doctors help people is wherever they see flows, blockages of the energy, they'll put an acupuncture needle in the meridian for that blockage, and then it thus allows the energy to flow, which then promotes healing. So that's the concept of acupuncture and meridians and acupuncture points. And so what these two German physicists did was they studied that Chinese medical theory and they applied modern day physics to it from like a physiology standpoint, and developed a device that could then read the electrical signals coming off of it, basically the electrical resistance of the acupuncture points. And that's what their device does. So this is quite real. And because I've actually run into other types of products that claim that they've been certified. And then when I go into those certifications and I look at the methods and materials and I look at the devices used, and then I look at, I actually look at the device and what people say about the device, a lot of times these, like these fake cell phone sticker things, you'll find out that it's just completely bogus when you drill down into the methods and materials. So, Philip, I love you, guy, but I went and did that. And then when I drilled into this one, I was really amazed. They're using what they call an EVA machine. It's a decavolt electro acupuncture diagnostics. And that's what that is. And so, you actually can go out and get your own. And they run anywhere from 245 to 6. And this is what that machine looks like. And I want to say something about this, is why I'm so surprised is because I have a personal story about how well a Voldeca device works. And this is that story. And I want to share it with everybody so that you know that where I'm coming from and my belief system here as to the certification results that Philip's going to share is my daughter is a college student. She's working towards a veterinarian degree. She's currently in agricultural school at University of Hawaii Hilo. And as part of her senior year, she's a research associate on a major problem we have here in Hawaii called rat lungworm disease. And so right now it's basically a big problem in the agriculture business industry, and where cattle, sheep, even pets are contracting rat lung disease. And so there's this huge study that's funded by NIH that's going on right now at the University of Hawaii, and my daughter is one of the research associates. So a few months ago, a lady walked in that they were, which was friends of a professor, and she had a Voldeca machine with her. My daughter didn't know what the machine was. Nobody knew what that thing was when this lady walks in, and they're talking about rat lungworm. And so the lady goes, "Let me test you, or let me test and see." And so what she did was they had 5 research associates there in the lab, and each one of the research associate, they did tests before and after holding a vial of the rat lungworm virus. Okay, and so they did the tests using the Voldeca machine on the associates. The lady measured the associates, and they did these 5 people on and off for like an hour, and 100% of the time when they were holding the vial of the rat lungworm, that she could tell that they had the pathogen on them, and when they weren't holding it, she could tell that they weren't holding it. Your body picks up the frequency of whatever you're next to or touching. And so that's really was there. Everybody in the lab was just really amazed at what this lady's device could. She was like a holistic wellness coach. And everyone was really shocked that she had this little device, because what their entire research project is on this rat lungworm and why they're studying it so much is they're trying to develop a test. They need a quick and fast test that a veterinarian can go out into a field or to a barn or farm and test all the animals really quickly and see which ones have it. And that's what they're trying to develop right now at the University of Hawaii. Is they're trying to develop that rapid test for rat lungworm. And here's this lady walks in with this little device and shows them within an hour that here, this device works. Here's the problem. It wasn't like the university didn't feel comfortable that this was it was an accepted way of testing, and so they don't want to use the machine even though she proved it to them, which is crazy. But that's the true story, and this happened within the last few months. So Philip, when I saw this, I was just amazed because I know for a fact, because of my daughter telling me that this device, what it did, and she was just telling me the story of it. I asked her to call that lady and find out what that device was, and that's how I know she used the Vol. She contacted her and said, yeah, she used this thing, and she gave me the name of it, and I did the research, and that's why I know about this device. So it's an amazing thing that when you went and did your testing, that your testing on for BESA was using a Voldeca. The Voldeca, in my personal opinion, is an authentic, accurate device that can measure the differences between having pathogens on you, not having pathogens on you, or being exposed to stimuli. Anyway, I just wanted to share that, Philip, because I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic, actually, that you're sharing this and that you've had this personal experience also with it, because certainly, that's not everybody knows about this, right? And and indeed, so BESA stands for Bioenergetic System Analysis, and it's actually one of the leading, if not the leading, bioenergetic system analysis institutes in Europe that focuses on testing, and they use basically that machine in an advanced way, and it's very, 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 very interesting. And we were also amazed by the results and everything, because we knew what the products would do, and then we have our healers that can see energetically what happens with people if they wear the t-shirt or our hoodie or the Leela quantum capsule and so on. But it's then different if you send off your products to such an institute, and then they just have random people wear those and they test those, and it's fantastic that it's possible that you can test these things, and it's also fantastic how the results came back. And you've explained everything pretty much about how this works, which is fantastic. No, I don't have to do it. You did a great job. That it could not be done in a better way. And also this summary there that you showed, I think it's helpful for people to understand. And maybe we can go into
I wanted to get
what was actually tested, right?
Sure. Yeah. Let's take a look at what was tested. So there's a bunch of different ones. So, there's so much detail here. Like I said, 352 pages, 16 studies. There's no way we can get through all of it, but I do want to point out, this is a really crappy translation, by the way. I'm just using Google PDF Translate. And so it doesn't come out as nice as the one that's on the website. But Philip, if you could kind of and this happened with every test, right? They did 3 tests. And then I think the thing that's really, the most amazing thing when I was reading all of this was that, I would expect that I'm wearing a shielded shirt, charged or not charged, that I would get, results, right? But what was interesting was that the energy itself is in a pendant, and when you tested the pendant, you had the exact same results. So and this is the thing. I'll just if you want to just walk through, here's the basic testing, the before, which is the person just walks in, right, and they test them, and then this was the EMF test against the shirt. So they're basically the exposure of the folks. Remember, they get measured here and measured here and measured here, but the exposure was they basically land a smart meter, 3G, 4G, 5G smartphones. They actually hand them cell phones, Bluetooth monitors. They basically expose them, right, to what your daily dose of EMF is, and then they measure them, and then they have them put on the shirt, expose them again.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what was interesting was here's the first one where they used the DECA. and this is the lady's name, or this is the tester. But could you explain, here's the first one. Could you explain what this kind of means? Like here's their, this is right out of the door, right? We're going to go ahead and test you. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick, just for the audience, so you find all of the studies in English also on the website, all the summaries, as well as from the eGIF Institute, also the detailed project document. It's a pretty long document. Just what Kay is now referring to and what he translated with Google, those are the sub documents, if you will, out of the BESA studies. So you find all the summaries and all that already in English translated, but there's just so much content and it's very expensive to translate it all and takes a lot of time. That's why we kind of haven't translated all of it yet. And going into the question there, so they have these green areas and then they have blue and yellow areas. The green area is where you want to be, right? The green is very good and it's regulated, and 50 is actually the best measurement out of this, what you're showing here in the diagram right now. And blue would be actually already degeneration and energetic deficit. So that's quite hard. That's worse than yellow. Even in yellow is already an inflammatory status. And yeah, I think that's what I can say about this here right now.
and then the red is like really, really
red, yeah, red actually is that's total deregulation. So that happens if there, it's like almost a very rapid decrease, and if that happens with 3 measurements at the same time, it's sort of shows like an too heavy load on the system that the system really can't deal with, and it's very hard. So then that shows in red.
Okay.
And you'll see that a lot, quite frankly, when people were exposed to toxins, for example, or to herbicides in food, or cesium-137, or to even EMF, right? You'll see several red dots there.
Okay. So as you're reading these studies or looking at this, is green is good, blue means they got issues, they're energetically, got problems. Yellow is they're just, almost there, and red is like it's not good. So as we read this, so this is what was interesting, Philip, is that every single test study person that walked in the door were primarily in blue. They started out really not in a good shape, which was amazing to me. So that means, I mean, literally try to imagine how many, like you take 20 or whatever dozen people off the street and all of them test that they're in a degenerative state. And why? We're all living in this electrosmog soup. Plus, if you don't watch your diet and you're eating GMO and all that other stuff, it's amazing that the general public, 100% of them, are in a degenerative state according to this measurement. So they all come in, they're all like this too. Every one of these studies, they all start off around this high in the blue, and very little in the green, from a wellness standpoint. And then of course the yellow and red. So that was amazing. Out of all the studies, this is the consistent thing where everyone walking around and not very healthy energetically. And then, so then they basically say, okay, we're going to here, sit in this room. We're going to hand you a whole bunch of stuff, that's got EMF coming out of it, Wi-Fi, phones, smart meters running, and so forth. And then this was the result right here, which was now all of a sudden, they went from a bad state, which was 30, energetically deficient in blue, and they went to 62 red. Red is bad. Red is the worst that you could get. So
yes,
right. So and then some of the verbiage here is, as the graphics show, many measuring points are in the degenerative blue area, lack energy. However, the picture is dramatic because of the now predominantly measured values in red. And so now it just demonstrates how bad EMF is for us. I'm wondering, Philip, just out of curiosity, but your healer network, are they susceptible to this, or have they been able to transcend and kind of like have like their frequency set where they don't feel it? Because a normal human being,
None of them,
we're all
yeah,
living.
none of them had issues with it. None
Wow.
of them do
Okay.
actually. So I know from my wife, Crew, she actually is just basically transforming the 5G frequency already in a heal frequency. So it's kind of like, it's very fascinating. And Roman, he has, I mean, zero issues with that. I mean, if you'd ask him, he would even say, I mean, EMF really isn't a big deal at all. It's just
Mm.
like, we're the big deal that we don't remember who we are and don't access our power. But that's from that perspective. It's just we just can't expect of ourselves that we're suddenly right there. So it's just we are where we are, and so let's get bridges that help us on that path.
Okay.
But yeah, none of them have any issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I actually know a friend of mine's wife gets a headache every time she drives by a cell phone tower. That's how sensitive she is. So it's just
Yeah.
amazing how people react. We got to get her a heal capsule. Okay, so
Yeah, and it's sad, right? It's indeed sad because they're
yeah,
and what the head scientist there at the Besa Institute says is that, I mean, he says from his perspective, really, EMF is it's really one of the core issues that we're facing. You mentioned several, of course, and diet and all that, and for him, that is at the core of the issues that we're dealing with here currently.
yeah. So now this is now there's 16 studies and they're all like this. They all have a one, two, three. All the BESA studies are like that. And so these BESA studies all did this with different products. And here it is right here. The third test was they said put on a t-shirt, and I think they wore it for a little while, and then they gave them the stuff, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And so then they exposed them to the EMF exactly as they did before, and then they remeasured them. And and this is consistent in all 16 studies. On the third test, when they're actually either wearing a heel capsule or wearing a t-shirt, it was 100% green. It literally transformed all of their physiological responses per the Voldeca device. They measured their energetic, electrical resistance at the meridian points, and they shifted completely into green, which a shielded shirt won't do that. A shielded shirt will and I've done this research on shielding because you can watch my video about how well my house is shielded. But a shielded shirt will basically prevent RF from hitting anywhere the shirt touches your skin. So your legs are still going to get it, your head's still going to get, because it's like a shield, like a Viking shield. But a shirt won't do this, guys, and I just want to point that out. It's just this is the energy in the shirt doing this. And even more so, if you take away the concept of EMF shielding altogether and you look at the test, and there's an exact same test like this. I believe it's not that one. I think this one. There's an exact same test where they use here's the results. I think this is from the capsule, right? Yeah, here's with the Leela Heal capsule. Boom, 100% in the green. So I just want to point that out because people might confuse and says, well, these results are because they wore shielded clothing. Well, no, I mean you get the exact same results when you just wear the pendant. That energy and these frequencies in this device, it really does what it's supposed to do. I'm just really amazed by this. This is pretty wild. Anything else
Yep.
you want to add? I can't.
Well, yeah.
I read all this
So
last night. I'm like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
yeah, and I think certainly people are different from each other, and here we've had probably, I think, up to 14 to 16 test persons. But then if you're going into an area where there's a lot of radiation EMF, right, a t-shirt would do more. A charged t-shirt, quantum t-shirt, he would do more than just the capsule, because it also blocks, like it sits around all your main organs, right? And it also blocks while it's providing you with positive energy. Because so with the capsule, if you're standing right next to a tower, the capsule still helps you, and you'll have huge improvement versus not wearing it, obviously, but the energy is still so high and it's hitting you everywhere that, there are then some differences, I think, that can be pointed out as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so that was the point that that I wanted to make, was that, to me, the methods and materials are sound, the methodology is sound, and then the results are pretty amazing. And this applies to the shielded products as well as the Heal capsule. I believe there's one other test that was done, and that was the one with heart rate variability. This was the IGEF testing. All of these tests were done by these two institutes in Europe. Now, the one thing about the IGEF was they used heart rate variability, and so that's a little bit different than heart rate monitor. A lot of us have these Fitbits and things like that, but I wanted to point out what heart rate variability is, and links to these descriptions about bioelectric. I'll put the links for these articles in the video description, so you can kind of see what the methods and materials were, or what the methodology was. But I want to point out that heart rate variability is the variation in time between each heartbeat. So it's basically, it's not heart rate, it's heart rate variability. So it's very different, and the devices for this are not cheap. I went looking to see if I could get my own, and they run around $1,800 as opposed to a Fitbit, which is like $100, right? So it is quite different. But I wanted to point that out because this was the same type of test done, but this time they were using a different device to measure the heart rate variability as people were exposed to EMF before and after wearing the t-shirt. And you could see right here that this is normal. You should have a heart rate variability. And then this is what happens when you're exposed. It reduces your variability, and that's not healthy. This is what good looks like, and then this is what poor looks like. And so they started doing all these different tests with different individuals. This is what good looks like. This is what poor looks like. And so, Philip, you want to just talk about, like, here's the same test, right, where they took individuals and then they exposed them?
Yes. So the IGEF, they use measurement devices to measure EMF radiation on one hand. So that's most of what they do. So they tested all of our clothing products, for example, for that benefit, right? Because they can exactly measure, okay, so if I put on my socks, the quantum socks or the quantum t-shirt or hoodie or whatever, does that really block the radiation? Because we wanted to get this certified, and so they verified that it's all well protected. Then with something like the Leela Quantum Heal capsule, since it doesn't block EMF, you can't use those devices. You have to apply a different method. And yeah, so scientifically over the last 1 or 2 decades, this heart rate variability has become one very accepted way of doing that, because it has a direct impact on the autonomic nervous system. I hope I said that correctly.
Right.
And that's what they then do. And they chose 12 different test people between the age of 12 to 80. And then those people were tested, and then they were tested with wearing the product, and they also used different time frames. So they actually also looked into, so how does this develop after 5 hours? How is it if you wear the capsule for 2 days and or 3 days even? And it got even better the longer you wore the capsule. It's important to note, though, that we recommended to not wear the capsule at night, just because we didn't want to get into too many details of taking spheres out and things like that, because the capsule stimulates, and we didn't want the people to have a hard time sleeping also at night. So they would wear them throughout the day. And it's also interesting here. So because out of those 12 people, 11 people were impacted by EMF, right? They were definitely
Yeah.
and significantly impacted by EMF, but there was one person that wasn't impacted. It wasn't one of our healers. We have no clue who that person was, but obviously there was someone that can deal with this in a much better way than
Wow.
all the other test subjects. So for that one person also, the capsule didn't yield any noticeable improvements because she was already in a very good state, right? So if you're doing good, you know, you don't need to. Yeah, there wasn't anything to yield. But for all these other 11 that were impacted by EMF, there were significant improvements shown in the heart rate variability, and that's kind of what they
Yeah.
tested. And it was interesting that they used these different time frames too.
Yeah, the heart rate variability testing is very commonplace in a lot of different physiology studies that you can find on all the different study sites, and so that's a very common one. You don't see a lot of people using the Voldeca, but this is definitely a common accepted practice in academia. So I just, as you read this, just want to point out, like, here's a female 80 years without the Leela capsule. You can see her heart rate variability is kind of like really kind of not as variable as that. She's in the not healthy stage over here on the left. And then you can see the up and down, which I pointed out earlier, which was like not the healthiest. And then she puts on the capsule. Variability goes up and down, which is a good sign. Her health indicators move closer to the right, which is a good sign. And then there's this leveling out of the different aspects right here of the analysis. So, definite improvement. Every one of these things is an improvement, except the one, which was the person. I'm trying to find that one. Is it in here? Because I remember hearing about it. There's this one guy that walks in, right? That without he was this is without this is a guy with, but yeah, that's the whole point, right? Is that you've got every one of these tests shows an improvement in heart rate variability with the Quantum Heal capsule. So, again, another test done another way, done by a second institution, showing the benefits of quantum energy. So, to me, this is awesome, because that's the key thing for so many people was, where's the science behind how does quantum energy, or actually the first question is, does it even exist? Is it a bunch of woo woo? So that answer, I think, is pretty clear. We've answered that today. No, it's not woo woo. It's a real thing, and it has a real effect on our physiology. And here are the examples. Here are the studies that were done. Here you go. Here is evidence. There's no longer a question as to this is real or not and what it can do. But thanks to Leela Quantum Tech for bringing this data out into the market. Thank you so much, Philip. I can't say enough about how valuable this is to validate the science of quantum energy in terms of just, like I just said, it's just so important. But here you go. This is evidence. This is studies that'll show you that it does help us. So, Philip, I know we have a hard stop in about 6 minutes. So, um, is there anything else you want to share about your frequencies and the studies? Are there more coming out or anything like that?
Yes. So first of all, thanks again for having me and for also pointing all of this out here, because indeed that's one of those things. It's really, for me, it's science meets consciousness, right? And there are these two sides, if you will, and it's kind of emergent, and it's good to see now also for people, I think, that you can quantify and qualify these things, and it's helpful. And no, we're not at the end with these studies, even though we have all these hundreds of pages here, but we're doing more. So there's more in the works. I don't really want to share at this point what it is that we're working on, but it's exciting. It's super interesting. It has to do with animals on one hand, but also with sports and also with little ones, because there's that's actually another point, right? So babies and little ones, they're exposed to all that we're exposed to as well, and all their physiological system is still really growing. And so there are some products that we have, like the baby hat, that that is supposed to help babies. Again, we're focusing on dogs and cats, but we want to do more research on that, and we'll come out with some tests and studies in the near future in regards to that.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you so much. So, yeah, I want to just say thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put this video out. I'll put in the video descriptions, like how to jump to just talking about frequencies, how to jump just talking about test results. And so now all of the studies that I was showing will eventually be on the website, right? So that anyone could read any of the evidence and read any of the studies. It'll all be published there, right? Eventually.
Yes, and all the studies actually already there. It's just some of the details of those sub-projects, because the Leela Quantum T-shirt, for example, was one big project, and there's one huge summary of it, but then it had a lot of different sub-projects, right, where we tested the impact of cesium to the body, or toxic substances, or immune system, things like that. And all those details, we will put them on the website over the next, let's say 3 to 6 weeks.
I want to point out again, I mentioned this in the beginning, but they didn't just test people against EMF. They tested them when they were holding a radioactive substance, very similar to what was done in Hilo with my daughter holding, and the associates holding a vial of lungworm virus. They also were holding vials of pathogens, holding toxic substances while they were tested with and without them. And in every single case, when they were holding them, they showed a definite issue with, that it was present with them. And then when they put it away, or in these examples that on Leela Quantum Tech, when they put the shirt on or had a pendant on and were holding it, it showed 100% green. It was just amazing. It's like as if they weren't holding something radioactive or holding a toxic substance. So it's just amazing. It really is. So again, hey, you know what? We got a hard stop. I know we both got meetings to go to. But you know what? Thank you so much, Philip. I mean, this is a huge, huge leap forward in bringing quantum energy technology into the marketplace, from the fact of actually having valid institutions, third-party testing, and it's just amazing. So I just want to say thank you again. This is what I've been actually looking for quite some time. It's just validation. So many people approach this from like the woo-woo standpoint, but it's like, just here's the evidence now. So we've got evidence. I can now point people to the studies every time they say anything. So that's very helpful, really helpful. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kay, and thanks everybody for watching. And yeah, if you're interested, take a look and be engaged, talk about it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Yep. And so again, the website is LeelaQ.com. So LeelaQ.com. And then we also are on Telegram, or Philip's on Telegram with a quantum power group. Is it called group?
Quantum power group. Yeah.
For all things quantum energy, and look for a lot more to come on that Telegram group. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.